Kia ora koutou. Jade Varapanapini Oni coming in again for another video in this series dedicated to building resilience. If you've watched a few of these videos, then you've heard me say that, resilience is really the cornerstone of what it takes to make different choices, to start communicating differently, and to start changing our circumstances. I'm just going to bring my earrings in here. They're a little distracting. So yeah, it is really the cornerstone to being able to make different choices, communicate differently, and really giving ourselves permission to have different circumstances, circumstances that may not have existed in our families before. And the series is dedicated to building resilience that is being built with an open heart. So in this video, we're going to speak about ownership. And in the heading I've written, I think about how do I give a little bit more about what this video is about, and really to sum up ownership, or to not sum up, but to elaborate more on ownership and what I mean by that. I mean radical self-responsibility. Okay. This is, when I say it's the cornerstone, it's like, this is it. If I had a, and I, if I had a sign on a boat, and it, and that boat was going to Never Never Land, or wherever the hell you might be wanting to go, and the down payment was ownership, this is what we're talking about, like the make or break, whether you get on the journey or not, whether you make it or not, whether everything depends on your level of ownership. When we talk about creating different paths for ourselves and our families, when we talk about creating different circumstances, like truly from a sustainable place, when we talk about changing the trajectory of our, of our future generations, we need resilience. And what we're talking about is ownership. And ownership to what? And this is what we're going to go through in this video. Yes, ownership is about radical self-responsibility, but towards what and for what purpose? For what purpose would we want to take Jade up on her offer of her boat going to Never Never Land, and having to be radically self-responsible and take ownership? What purpose? What's that all about? Ownership is the down payment to us getting to truly embody and experience viscerally the full spectrum of being alive in this body. It is the down payment for that. Ownership is the down payment for viscerally experiencing the full spectrum of this life, the good, the bad, the ugly. The flip side to that way of living is, well, we know it. We know what the flip side to that lifestyle is, because we've lived it for many, many years. Like before I became a coach and, had the privilege of mentoring others, I was in chaotic relationships, job settings, social settings. It was chaos. I distinctly remember my head screaming, me smiling, and then somewhere probably my higher self going, where are we? Screaming inside the head, noticing the screaming, smiling, and then somewhere else noticing, whoa, this is a situation. Chaos. That is the flip side to living a life where we can viscerally means in the body we feel it. It's in our bones, it's in our marrow, it is in our being. We can feel it lighting up each cell. We can feel the joys, the pains of being alive. We viscerally experience life deeply. This is what ownership leads to. This is what radical self-responsibility leads to. So why would you want to do that? Well, do you want to live a life where you quietly smile as you're going through chaos and pretend and mask? If you want that life, tune out here. This ownership is not, unless you're listening to this with the chaos and you're like, yeah, I want to take ownership. Keep listening. But no one would be listening to this who was, masking, pretend, that didn't want to hear this. Like, we never listen to things that we're not ready to hear or don't want to hear. Right. So those that are feeling the burn of chaos, being masked, being joy being pretended or forced, though, these are the points where we start to lean and go, okay, I want to take some moment. I want to learn about how I can control my destiny and get on this boat and get to where I know I can, where I know I'm worthy of living, or, where I know that I have the ability to be. This is why I would take ownership. So what is ownership exactly? It is ownership for our thoughts, our feelings, and our circumstances. And those three things are the same thing. Our circumstances do begin as our thoughts. And our thoughts, are closely linked to our feelings. So they all work together. Our thoughts and our feelings lead to our circumstances. Our circumstances produce more thoughts and feelings, which lead to more circumstances, either of the same kind or different kind. So what it is, and I just want to preface this, it just popped in, it is possible to be living a circumstance that is not so ideal and take ownership and be radically self-responsible to work to becoming aware of and changing certain thought patterns, certain feelings, and therefore circumstance. So it is possible to be up shit creek and be self-responsible. In fact, if that's all you hear from this video, be up like shit creek, self-responsibility, it's the end. It is the acceptance of both, that we are both up shit creek and self-responsible. That will make more sense as we continue make and listen to these videos. So what are we actually taking responsibility for? What does ownership look like? Well, if we're taking ownership for the way we think, the thoughts we have, the feelings that we have, the circumstances that we're living and that we have. All right, so if we're in an unideal situation, how do we be self-responsible and take ownership for the way that we feel and the way that we're thinking while we're in that? Well, I can't answer that in this very short video, but this is why I'm making the series of resilience, because it is a weaving, it's a tapestry. It's us getting getting each strand and deciding to weave this new tapestry of who we're deciding to be. So it's a whole project. But in short, what we're actually being asked to do is, instead of project, which is probably the closest thing I can think of to being the opposite of ownership, instead of project and give and give away our power. Projecting means like let me project the way the way I'm feeling, let me project that out and blame these people or blame this circumstance or this government or this system. The thoughts that I'm having are because of this circumstance, these people, this government, this partner, this wife, this husband. It's projecting out. It's taking the way we feel, the things we're thinking, the circumstances that we have, and finding somewhere out there to attach it to, and essentially link it to, sometimes blame it on. So if we're not projecting and putting it out there, then we're taking ownership of it in here. How do we do that? Well, it's an art. And as I said, I can't explain it in one video, but the concept is first is that first things first is we become aware. More often than not, when we're projecting things out, when we're blaming things, when we're linking at what's happening in our thoughts and in our feelings and in our world, when we're linking those to outside forces, we don't know we're doing that. And so first things first is like to watch something like this and be like, oh, watch something like this where it's, not just talking at you, but I'm actually talking from experience. Like, I have done all of this and I still do it, right? We will always do it, right? You're not gonna watch a video, learn this stuff and be like good for life. Like, yeah, I'm just a fully self-responsible human being going about my way. Bullshit. When we become aware of what we didn't know previously, this is how we are teaching ourselves that we are ready for ownership, that we are ready for the path of ownership. And what we're really saying is that, yeah, we're ready for the path of ownership, and we're ready for that boat ride to where we really know we can be living, and we're ready for up-leveling. We're ready for, like a more challenging type of adventure in our life. We're ready for that full spectrum type of living. And best believe that our soul, our waira, was going to test, almost like a litmus test, to make sure, like, are you sure you're ready? Okay. So first things first is that we become aware of these kinds of concepts. And I'll show you one in a moment. So the next step is like, then you learn the art. Let's just say then you learn the art. But the first step is become aware, and then you learn the art of self-acceptance, which is taking all these things that you think and that you feel and that all these circumstances that you're in, and learning the art of acceptance to learn how to turn, face, and feel those in a really safe, proper way. But we ain't going to get into that in this video. And then the natural consequence of self-acceptance is that you actualize and own a new set of circumstances. So that's the model that I run clients through, is, that's how you actualize a new way of living. But again, can't build Rome in a day, but I am going to show you this. So the background would have just changed there, and hopefully you can see cause and effect. A really cool way to become aware of what's going on in our world and how to take ownership is to look through the lens of cause and effect. I'm just going to explain it in the way that it comes out. There's many different ways and angles to explain this model, cause and effect, but this is how I'm going to do it today. We are either above the line or below the line with our thinking, okay? Below the line thinking is thinking that sounds a little bit like this. I am affected by what happens in the world. What happens in the world around me, I am affected by. If this happens over there, that affects me. If that happens over there, that affects me. If this happens in my house, it affects me. It's the power is put in the world outside of the individual. And it sounds like the power is outside of the individual. So when I hear myself and others, on very special days talking about how the government and the systems and these other people, they, us versus them, when I hear this talk, I'm hearing people at effect. I'm hearing myself at effect. And that's the key thing there, is just to hear it, be aware of it, and then choose what you're going to do with it. Are you going to keep going? Because are you going to keep giving that power away, or are you going to bring it back home? Are you going to bring it back home? So that's at effect. When we move to being at cause, which is otherwise known as above the line thinking, why just at cause? At cause suggests that I cause the circumstances in my life. I cause the experiences that I have in my life now. I now cause the circumstances that I experience in my life. I am the cause now of the things, the people, the experiences that I have in my life. I cause the way I feel. I cause the way I think. I cause the circumstances that I have now. I'm using some really deliberate language there, because I am quite aware that like, just sometimes when these topics come up, like, you are like, you cause what happens in your life. If you've been through some stuff and you hear that, it's just a lot to process. Like, could we get into, like, is it absolutely true or what? Like, we could, but I just think it's useful to just use the language like now. If you've been through some stuff in the past and you're hearing that, you didn't know what you know right now after watching this video, or like whenever you started to be on your journey of, self-love, self-responsibility. And so I've just seen what these kinds of, like, absolute statements, like, we cause what happens in our reality. Sure, there's elements of truth to it. Like I know that, but we also want to be compassionate to individuals' experiences and what they've traversed in their lives. And so that's why I use language like, I now cause what happens in my world. And that just gives us a bit of grace and a bit of space to acknowledge, like, past, present, and future, right? So I trust that makes sense, guys. Guys and girls and wahine and tane and everybody. And I want to give us some space and grace, because I don't want to take away from the teaching, the powerful modality that this is, that can be used in a way to help us take ownership. So when we are using statements like, I now cause, how I think, how I feel, and what I'm experiencing in my life, the power is with us. And so when things annoy us, piss us off, or, things like that, it's like we pause. When we're at cause, we pause. Yeah. That's a good one. When we're at cause, we know how to pause and just, bring it back to us and remember, I cause the way that I feel. I cause what happens from here. Even though I'm pissed off, even though I'm sad, even though I don't like the situation, even though I'm projecting out on the government, I remember that I am at cause. I know how to pause and bring it back home. So this is a really powerful model as to how we can, take ownership and decide where the power is going to lie. Is it going to lie in the world outside of us, and we're going to be affected? Our attitude is going to be, I'm affected by the world around me. Or is our attitude going to be based in, I now cause how I feel, how I think, and what I experience? And I love this model because it gives us that choice. So that's all that I have for this model. If you have any questions, find me on Instagram, find my email, send me an email, or leave a comment below, and I'll do my best to come back. I just don't get notifications for comments on YouTube. But yeah, Instagram is a good place to find me. And if you're meant to find me, you will find me. You will talk. You will come and have a chat. So I'm going to leave that one there, and we'll move into next. We are actually going to move into curiosity. All right, curiosity, because it goes off the back of this, where when we are in that moment of pause, and deciding to be at cause, curiosity is a powerful way to remain open.